Our scripture reading this morning is from Ruth chapter 1, 15 through 21. So she said, "Look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not press me to leave you, to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do thus to me, and more as well, if even death parts me from you." When Naomi saw she was determined to go with her, she said no more. The two of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. The women said, "Is this Naomi?" To them she said, "Call me Naomi no longer. Call me Mara. For the Almighty has dealt bitterly with me. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi when the world has dealt harshly with me? The Almighty has brought calamity upon me." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Years ago, when Mandy and I moved our family from Kentucky to Indiana, we had to bribe our children. They were in elementary school. It's not like they were just going to stay behind, but to have happy children in a move is an important thing. So we had to bribe them. We were moving from family, away from friends, away from two really healthy, active churches to a church that was a total hot mess. And we knew it. Plus, we were moving from Kentucky to somewhere else. So there's already a problem with that, right? No, it's God's country. So we had to bribe the kids. We promised a dog. It was a simple enough thing. I had been saying no for years. Mandy had been pretending to say no because I was saying no. We had barely made it to the new house when the kids said, "And where's the dog?" So we were there, moved in a week, and we went out to a local farm that had puppies. We went out to take a look, and they were all adorable. They were all living in a little swimming pool, a little kiddie pool together. There were 8 of them. The mother was a Walker Coonhound. The dad had at least some black lab in him and some other stuff too, apparently, but we never met him. The mama had abandoned them all. In typical coonhound fashion, she had no energy for mothering. She needed to run in circles and howl at things. So these little puppies were being bottle fed. They were all very skittish. And as we came in, they all went to the back of their little swimming pool, except one. One, the alpha male female of the bunch, turned and walked towards us as if to say, "If you want one of them, you got to go through me. And if you're going to take one of us, take me. I'll be your dog, and you'll be my people." We named her Molly, but we could have probably named her Ruth. She was bold, she was strong, and she was ready to go, making sure everybody else was okay. Our scripture today introduces us to one of those powerful female characters in scripture, and I dare say one of the strongest women we see in all of literature. Ruth's story is filled with details, but in the end, we're left longing to know more. It's an amazing story because of all that it leaves untold. She's from Moab, a foreign land, and she marries a guy who's considered a foreigner to them. He's a refugee from Bethlehem. There's been drought in their land. His whole family's moved to Moab. And so she marries the guy from a long ways away. I wonder if the other girls said, "Ooh, he's the exotic new guy." Or if they said, "Why are you talking to the weirdo from another place?" Soon after they are married, her father-in-law passes away. We can only imagine the impact on the family. But then, not long after that, her husband and her brother-in-law both die unexpectedly. Ruth, her sister-in-law Orpah, are suddenly widows alongside their mother-in-law Naomi. 3 women in a world where women's security is defined by the men and the structures around them. One of the three is still a refugee. The other two are dependent upon the refugee. It's a scary place to be. Naomi, the mother-in-law, decides it's time to move back to Bethlehem. The drought is over, and she needs to be closer to family. It is her best shot at survival. Which brings us to today's scripture, which gives us 3 insights into these amazing women, some of which we may just read over a little quickly, but I want to make sure we don't miss it. First, Orpah and Ruth are still with Naomi when this happens. They did not immediately leave when their husbands die and go back home. It says a lot about their relationship. Why stay when everyone in that house dies? Do you think about that? 50% of the people who lived there died. The amount of grief in that place. And home is just down the road, just across the valley. However far it is, they're in that same land. Why stay? Especially with family nearby. There must have been a bond amongst these women within this chosen family. Second, Naomi has to tell them to leave her. This is a bad move for Naomi. She's got nothing. And these women are young and can carry stuff. They can help her with stuff. But culturally, they were all vulnerable. And Naomi won't make it harder for these young women. There must have been love among this chosen family. And finally, you have Orpah, who listens to Naomi's advice, who trusts Naomi's guidance and does what she's told, and Ruth, who ignores the suggestion. And so we recognize that good and bad are not a binary thing. Relationships don't have the same outcome for different people. Both are faithful in their response. One is obedient to Naomi, and the other is stubborn and deeply connected. There must have been a lot of tears as they went their different directions. But there must have also been a lot of fear with all the unknowns that each one would be facing in what would be a forever chosen family. I wonder what fears have come along with your choices to support someone else. What fear has come when you chose to support another person? What fears have come along with chosen family? At this point in our story, Ruth becomes an emotional refugee. She gets to a new home with Naomi, going with a woman who is wrecked by depression. Naomi gets back to Bethlehem, and Naomi, her name means pleasant in Hebrew. But she says, "Call me Mara," which means bitter. And she's blaming God at this point. If you're in the 5 stages of grief, you can kind of figure out where Naomi is a little bit, right? She's got the anger, the denial, all of it there together. The depression, she's feeling it all at once. Ruth knowingly walks into this situation with a covenantal love that is powerful. The only way to truly understand the covenant is to walk through the story, but the story launches from the covenant. She knowingly walks in saying, "Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people," and she's not yet met them. Can you imagine saying that about somebody? Your family is going to be my family. My wife and I did that, and then we decided how much these 2 families really were going to be our family, because some of them we didn't want to deal with. She's taken them sight unseen in a foreign land. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die. We're in this together, she says. Some have made a case, we'll name them Sandy, that this is a new marriage in the story, a covenantal relationship, bound for life. It's hard to name it any other way. Others have made the case that it's simply one of the most powerful examples of friendship, of family, or of faith, Whatever it is, it's the best example of it you will ever find. It is a beautiful covenant, so beautiful that hetero and even homophobic couples have used it in their weddings, not knowing the context of Scripture it comes from. It is a powerful covenant of love, and it sets a standard of what chosen family looks like. I wonder what example of family sets the standard for you. I wonder what example of friendship is the model that you look to. Over the next few chapters, we get to see this partnership at work. Naomi knows the culture and she knows the people, and Ruth seems to understand people and get along with them well, and Ruth is a hard worker. This partnership starts with Naomi scheming and Ruth's execution of the plan. Naomi teaches Ruth about the tradition of gleaning, going behind the harvesters and picking up what's left. It was a tradition that you let those who were widows and orphans and the poor come behind the primary pickers and take the leftover, what wasn't worth their time and effort to go back and pull apart. Ruth understands the hard work required, and she is on it. She collects every day. She's there early in the morning, works till late at night. Naomi understands there's other traditions at play too, though. Naomi doesn't just send her to any field, she sends her to the field of Boaz. Boaz is a relative of Naomi's late husband. And this is where a little cultural intrigue and soap opera comes into all of it. Are you ready? Boaz, or as Naomi might have called him, the Mark, is a relative of her late husband, which means any connection to him can be connected in their family tree to Elimelech, her late husband. There is responsibility to care for orphans and widows, but there's potential for more in just the right circumstance. Naomi sends her young, healthy daughter-in-law out into the field to work for all of Boaz's men to see, and boy, does she. Partway through the harvest, Boaz has noticed and said, "Who's this?" And the worker said, "Well, that's the lady that came with Naomi from Moab, the Moabite woman, Ruth." And he goes, "Really? Okay. Tell you what, as you're going, be sloppy." He tells the workers to be less efficient so that she can pick up more. He's taking care of Naomi through Ruth. He understands how this works. He also tells them to let her draw water from their wells, from their water buckets, to sit and have her lunch in the shade with the workers. She doesn't have to endure the elements some of the other folks are enduring in order to glean. It's like she's another class of worker just behind the first ones. Naomi realizes the plan is working. At the end of the season, she tells Ruth, "Listen, there's going to be a harvest festival. This is how this goes down. They're going to party into the night. They're going to have lots of food. Then they're going to have lots of drink, and they're going to fall asleep there in the barn. This is how the party works. You apparently don't drink and walk home. You just drink till you're done, and you lay on the bale of hay, and you make that your bed." And she tells Ruth, "This is your moment." Ruth follows the plan. She waits for the party. She waits for everybody to get well fed. She waits for Boaz to be well comforted by food and drink. And then she goes, and as Scripture says, lays at Boaz's feet. Now, let me tell you, in Hebrew, feet does not mean feet in this context. It is a euphemism. If you said they have really big feet or really big hands, you're suggesting something else, right? How do we know this? Jewish scholars have told us for a long, long time in Jewish culture, feet has meant something different when you're talking about a man. So Ruth goes, he's asleep. She curls up and lays at his feet. How else do we know it's not feet? Because in the morning, he wakes up, realizes what's happened, and says, what you have done is greater than all you've done before. Either she was the world's best snuggler, or a little more happened in their roll in the hay. The third thing that tells us that feet doesn't just mean feet is the next thing he's talking about is marrying the girl. That is some serious snuggle power. I got a feeling Ruth is showing us the power women had even in a society where they did not give women power, where women learned to use what they had, even if it cost them something along the way, a struggle that women still wrestle with today. We don't know much about Boaz and Ruth's relationship. We don't know if he saw her in the fields and thought she was hot. We don't know if he saw her and was sad about the broken branch of his family tree. We don't know if he's doing all this to protect Naomi or if he's inspired by Ruth. We don't know if there's conversations between Boaz and Ruth leading up to this, or if he's just admired her from a distance. But the relationship evolves somehow over time. And Boaz is not just a fan of cuddling. He understands the same laws and customs that Naomi does. He knows that in their culture, sex equals a connection. You could go through a wedding ceremony, but if you had not consummated it, you could still dismiss it legally. He knows that in marrying Ruth, she can better support Naomi. But even more, he knows the customs. A child of Boaz and Ruth is also considered a descendant of Naomi and Elimelech. Their chosen family and their genealogical family tree get woven together in this tradition. A spiritual and a DNA ancestor in the same child. This is tradition. It's the culture. It is poetic in the story. Beautiful. It's family. Beautiful and messy. But it's family, chosen and biological in this strange hybrid space. This child, conceived out of wedlock before the wedding, but still connects and binds a family. This child with so much hope and expectation thrust upon them changes Naomi's mental health, maybe saves her life. This child falls into the family tree of King David and of Jesus. But before there's any of that, there is a covenant between two women, one who's a refugee and one who's about to be. There is a covenant, there is a choice, there is a family forged in struggle and held together by love and hope. I wonder, when has someone's choice to love and claim you as family changed your life? When has someone's choice to claim you as family changed their life? When have you claimed someone as family? And how has it changed your life? When has your choice to claim someone else changed your life? I wonder who God might place in our lives in the days to come. I wonder who we might love that we've yet to meet. Who might discover what God looks like because of the family we have chosen.